Hey digital world, it's Alex coming back to you here in week 6. This week we're talking about online and offline collaboration. And the first thing that I'm going to do is kind of walk us back through some of what we did last week. I effectively kind of had us walk through a design thinking exercise via our empathy research assignment. And I kind of wanted to walk you through some of the processes that I use to kind of come up with some of the key findings that I got from looking at what you had to say about increasing interaction in online asynchronous environments, much like the one that we're kind of interacting with this class. So I'm going to walk through some of those key findings, what I did, the processes that I used to get those key findings, and then talk to you about how I kind of grouped and categorized them and kind of show you kind of what you said after I kind of looked at both of my two sections of this ICOM 101 course for ways that we could increase our ability to kind of collaborate, potentially work on group projects, and also kind of utilize more and different media here in our Canvas site and everywhere else. So this week we're getting into online and offline collaboration. So last week I gave you an assignment that was called Empathy Research Analysis, and this assignment was actually kind of for me to gather your interactions and ways that you would kind of prefer to interact, kind of using Canvas and other different platforms, different media. And I also kind of wanted to walk you through my process. So the first thing that I did was I used a really easy low form design thinking tool that these tools are kind of used to kind of associate with some of the wicked problems that we've kind of looked at that can be not solved but at least approached using design thinking methods. One of those is a how might we question. How might we questions are kind of utilized when there's going to be a lot of different kinds of feedback. People are going to have conflicting opinions, people are going to have conflicting values or things that they want. But how might we questions are really useful for kind of understanding all of the different thoughts and behaviors and attitudes of different kind of key stakeholders in a given problem. So this week or last week I asked you the question, how might we increase class interactivity in asynchronous online environments, much like this one? I did that because obviously there's going to be a variety of different answers from all of my stakeholders, which is obviously my students, you guys. And so I started with that question to just kind of stoke the kind of creative fuel for how we could think about how we could increase our interactivity. So when you guys provided me your answers to those questions, giving me 5 different suggestions possibly for increasing interactivity, this is another kind of tangential design thinking method that you can couple with a how might we question that kind of draws on this concept of empathy research. So I ask you a how might we question. I'm actively kind of employing empathy research in kind of getting your take on how we interact currently and how we could do more and better different interactions within this class and beyond that. So this is a way of kind of looking at a wicked problem with several different facets that's very complex, so that we can kind of suss through all the potential data, all of the different conflicting thoughts and attitudes and behaviors. So we went from a how might we question, and then we completed some empathy research, and I'll show you kind of what I did with that empathy research. So another simple design thinking method or tool that you can use when kind of trying to gather all of the differing thoughts from stakeholders in a given problem that can potentially be solved or approached with media, I used a design thinking method called saturate and group. So I asked you a how might we question, did some empathy research on how you guys interact, how you would prefer to interact, different types of assignments and discussions and conferences, all kinds of these ideas came up in my findings, and it's a lot of data. That's one reason that I'm getting you this lecture so late in the week this week. Just kind of going through and doing a design thinking method called saturate and group, where I try to kind of categorize in maybe 3 or 4 big categories kind of the different things that all of my users, all of my stakeholders are saying. So I took all of the answers that you guys gave me last week and I performed a saturate and group where I tried to kind of categorize what my key findings were as an instructor for ways that we could better interact in this course. So we went from a how might we question to kind of getting some empathy research from our stakeholders, and then finally I went through a saturating group where I kind of tried to categorize all of those different answers into something that's easy to understand, something that's easy to kind of find the data out of kind of what we've described. So I had a few key findings from this empathy research that we performed last week, and I'm going to detail kind of the big four categories that I saw in your responses. As I go through these things, know that I'm definitely paying attention to anything that you guys are saying to me, giving me via feedback, and to that end, I've grouped them in ways that we can think about them, and I can also kind of provide if I might have a counter argument or a reason why I'm not doing something or why it might not be beneficial to the class. I'm also going to detail that as well. So I'm going to go through some of the key findings that we got through this little kind of design thinking exercise. So probably the largest suggestion that I had from all of my users across my two different sections of ICOM 101 were just generally increasing the use of our Canvas features, all of the different kind of nooks and crannies of Canvas that we may or may not be using to their fullest potential. A number of these things kind of listed on the right. I think probably the largest suggestion that I got from everybody in the two sections of ICOM 101 was more use of Canvas discussions for assignments. So the ability to actively interact as students and instructor within a Canvas discussion, potentially kind of more readily replicates what an in-class experience might be if we're able to use things like uploading video and audio and other media to kind of communicate and talk about the concepts, things that we didn't understand, things that could be brought into more depth. So I can say that I am going to be using Canvas discussions in a major way for the remainder of the semester, and in relationship to some of the other key findings, kind of increasing our ability to use different media within those discussions. Some other suggestions were looking to use the conference tab within Canvas for live discussion, so between instructor and student, as well as sort of similar things like employing the Canvas chat room function for students and instructors to communicate, and also the idea was floated a couple times for an open discussion board for students to kind of lobby a question they might have about an assignment that could apply to many other students, or a particular concept that they find fuzzy, that they might have potentially more and better understanding of it if they can kind of hear from their classmates as well as me, the instructor. And kind of the last thing that I wanted to talk about was there was a huge amount of support or want for live online lectures in such a way that students could kind of ask questions within that lecture and kind of get them answered. I'm a little hamstrung on kind of doing live online lectures in that, for one, this course being asynchronous, I can't I can't mandate that all students show up at a certain time. On the other hand, if I establish one time that I'm doing live online lectures each week, more than likely I'm probably alienating a number of students who simply can't make those lectures each week. If I try to make them, at variable times, I have a similar sort of problem where I think that I'll probably get, maybe less than half the class kind of in those sessions. But I'm going to think about this and see if I can figure out ways that I could kind of incorporate these things so that potentially I could have the traditional lecture like I'm doing here, as well as maybe kind of scheduled times that different students might be able to meet and kind of have review sessions, as well as I'm also still looking into live online lectures and kind of how we could incorporate that into this course. But it might be something that takes me a little while to kind of fully kind of grasp all of the different stakeholders, all of the different kind of complex things within this one issue. But I will say that obviously I'm going to be using Canvas discussions a lot more, and trying to make myself a bit more available just for kind of general questions about concepts and assignments. So we're going to be increasing our use of different Canvas features. I'm going to be learning a few of them that I haven't utilized too much. And the big thing that I want to keep in mind with a lot of this is making sure that I'm not putting too much information in too many different places so that it actually becomes kind of more of a hassle to get to what you need in a given week. But this was one of the key findings that I found. This was probably the most kind of cited thing, was kind of increasing our use of different Canvas features that are already available to us. So going along with that kind of increase in Canvas usage and different features within it, probably the second most cited thing was to be able to increase the variety of media that we have in this class. A large one was more real-world examples from your instructor on class concepts. So potentially in a lesson about design thinking, show how a company like IDEO would use those methodologies and have used those methodologies to redesign something like a shopping cart or something like that, so that you can see at a glance in a real world context how these things are used, rather than kind of simply knowing and understanding the concepts. That's something that I'm going to be working into lecture pretty heavily over the next couple weeks, and trying to see if I can kind of sustain that, so that any concept that I give you, you kind of get to see it applied in some capacity that is real world ready, I guess. Big call for more interactive assignments that include video, audio, poll-based questions, and more. People asked for just interactive assignments in general, something that felt less like getting a PDF and something to read and then something to respond with your own written word. I've had luck this semester in class with some of my other online classes with doing a lot of video discussion responses. That's going to be part of your assignment for this week, is a video discussion response to a pretty basic question, just so again we can kind of start interacting a bit more and converse. And also people ask for more context for assignments, something that potentially in my weekly lecture or in a separate video I kind of define and describe and model for you exactly what I'm looking for in assignments. I'm also going to be adding kind of more straightforward rubrics to understand exactly what I'm looking for, say in a video discussion response or something of the sort. But in general, we're trying to increase the variety of media that we have in this class, so that people with different media skill sets, people that want to explore those different things, can kind of be utilizing them, and maybe even potentially over time with different longer form projects that we'll be getting into in the second half of the semester. Kind of, are there ways that we can kind of archive these things and potentially use them for portfolios, or just a knowledge base for future students, and anything like that. So we're going to increase the variety of media that we're using in this class, so that we can have a bit more of a vibrant discussion and conversation each week, and kind of keep that contained, I think, to our discussion sections in a lot of cases. I'm also going to be trying to employ a lot more TED Talks and other things that, again, can get more at that applied method of understanding what we're learning in class. So there was a big call for group project work in kind of an applied capacity, so that students could have more interactivity, more conversation via either chat or email or other methods with other students, so that we could kind of have larger form kind of applied projects within this class. I'm definitely all about that. That's something that I very much want to have in this class. And I'm thinking a lot about how I can structure those things to again, not create too much more kind of extra handing things off and back and forth, and kind of the traditional issues with group projects where someone's not pulling their weight, or the division of labor with the skills that you have isn't super manageable to kind of understand what needs to be done. But I'm going to be working to increase the amount of group project work that we have in here, especially as we're starting to use different media like video and audio and photo, and trying to kind of increase our ability to pitch and project our ideas to each other via some sort of online platform like Canvas. So this is something I'm still thinking about, and a question that I have for you guys is how I might structure group work so that they're kind of satisfying assignments that you can kind of like apply the concepts that we've learned, as well as kind of collaborate with one another. So those are my key findings, those first kind of three categories. I had numerous other findings, and some of them I've also kind of left off just for brevity's sake, but I just kind of wanted to talk about a few more of them. A large subset of my answers that I got back kind of dictated potentially using some sort of social media platform. Everything was suggested from a Facebook page to a Facebook group, using Twitter, using Snapchat. Had a couple of people advocate for the House Party app as a means to kind of have live chat kind of going on. One of my concerns using a social media platform to kind of integrate with daily life and kind of understand these concepts over a different platform is that in many ways a lot of users won't, either won't have a Facebook account or won't have a Twitter account or don't utilize this platform or that platform. And I think if I were to try to spread things out over multiple platforms for the purposes of this class, I think that it would get even more chaotic and hard to understand kind of exactly what's happening. I think there's potential for us to have some sort of separate group, potentially as like a student group discussion section, say on a Facebook page or something like that. I'm just fairly uncertain as to how I could integrate it in a way that would kind of feel holistic, that you would get to understand and know your fellow classmates a bit better, but also not become so large and sprawling that I'm kind of just throwing things at different platforms for no reason, or not understanding the reason why I'm doing it. So I'm still working on that one. There's also the issue of anonymity and the idea that potentially, there are students who don't want to be connected on, on a social network, things like that. And I also have to kind of take that into account as I'm doing these things. So that's something that I'm thinking about. If you guys can help me think about that a little bit more, that would help me. Something that I am going to be starting to get a lot more vigilant about is more concrete reminders of when content and feedback is available, content for the week up on Canvas and feedback via assignments, as well as some more consistent timelines for feedback. I've been in a grading hole for the last 2 to 3 weeks that I've just kind of pulled myself out of, and I'm going to be working to get timely feedback on all assignments as I'm able. I'm going to be trying at least this week, seeing looking at your videos and trying to understand how I can say if things are due on a Sunday, how I can kind of get that feedback to you by Monday, so that we can kind of be going forward rather than kind of like waiting through getting feedback and getting grades for things like that. More people were looking for concrete availability from me, from your instructor to meet. This is kind of a similar issue that I have with having live online lecture with questions and things like that, in that I have a largely variable schedule throughout the week, and to set one specific time where I might be doing a live lecture, or having a concrete time to meet outside of my office hours is actually kind of difficult to just understand each week, because it could change each week. But if this is something that you guys really want to kind of have a better understanding of these concepts, I'll try and set aside more time and kind of make that concrete throughout the week, potentially like a Monday, Friday situation, where I might have drop-in hours or something like that, where we can, get on Canvas, use Canvas chat or conference, something like that, so that we could communicate, as well as like Google Hangouts, Skype, things like that. I want to be available to you to meet. I'm always available for appointments. So for one thing, if you do have questions, if you're uncertain about something, definitely get a hold of me, talk to me, and let's meet up. So these are some of the other findings that I had in my research this week. I'm going to be looking at these things for the rest of the week and trying to see how I can kind of retool our Canvas to kind of better have interaction and kind of us understand each other as people, as well as these concepts that we're working on. So this week we're looking at online and offline collaboration. We're looking at how we can use an online asynchronous course to potentially do group work and things like that, group projects, peer evaluations, in a way that doesn't take up too much extra time for anybody involved. So I kind of started out by talking about the key findings that I had throughout what we were doing this week with empathy research, and I'm kind of using this information to kind of promote better collaboration overall. So I'm going to detail kind of your assignment for this week in the next few slides, so that you can have me right there just kind of like walking along with you, and then we'll talk about kind of how things are going to shape up to come. Okay, so your assignment this week is fairly conversational. I want us to be able to kind of interact and understand each other. I'm going to be placing a video on our Canvas site for how to upload videos to Canvas, whether you're using the record media here on Canvas, uploading a screencast or something like that to YouTube, or uploading your own file here. So for our assignment this week, I'm kind of doing a reprise of our first week when we kind of described what our experiences were with digital media and kind of what we wanted to do. This is maybe the assignment that I kind of should have given out maybe first top of the semester. But for this week's assignment, I want you to make a 2 to 3 minute video of you talking to us, something similar to what I'm doing right here. I've got slides. I'm not making that necessary for this. I actually kind of want to see your faces and understand, what your stake is in this thing. So create a 2 to 3 minute video of yourself answering the following question. How do you see yourself in the digital world? So do you want to be a videographer, and how might that kind of play into other different roles? Do you want to be a photographer? Would you like to be a producer of transmedia or of interactive television? Or do you want to be looking at user experience and user interfaces and understanding how users get to the information that they need to? Do you want to be testing with users? All of these different kinds of questions come into play. There's really no wrong answer here, so long as you're kind of understanding what you know about digital media, what you can do with it, and kind of where the gaps are going to be for what you want to be able to do with that knowledge. So in association with the what do you want to do assignment, the video assignment for this week, I've also got this connect with your peers assignment. So this week, as you submit that what do you want to do assignment, you will also be able to see in our discussion section all of your fellow classmates, all of their answers to this question. And this week I want to connect with your peers. I want you to respond to at least 2 of those posts within our discussion section, where you attempt to get some conversation going with that, with those people about shared interests, different pursuits, or just things that you found interesting about kind of that person's experience with digital media. I want us to get to know each other this week So given that I'm fairly late this week in getting an assignment up, I'm giving you until Tuesday for both Tuesday at 11:59, 2nd of October, to get both of these assignments in. It's largely, I don't think, going to take much research on your part. It's going to be your ability to kind of get in front of a webcam and kind of make us understand what you know about digital media and what you want to know, kind of what you want to do with what you're learning in these classes. As kind of a final note, next week's content is going to be posted by Monday on 10/1, and I'm going to attempt to apply as much of the feedback as you gave me from last week into our course moving forward. Next week's content will be up on Monday, and I'm also going to be working, I'm trying to make things interactive and trying to make things kind of week to week kind of relate back to what happened last week, and to that end, I'm going to also be trying to get conceptual videos and readings and things like that for subsequent weeks up far in advance, so that week to week I can be doing kind of more videos like this where we're recapping and reassessing what we've learned and how we can utilize it, how we can kind of interact with that information. So both assignments due on Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. And next week's content is going to be up at the latest by Monday. So let me know if you have any questions. Send me an email, send me something on Canvas, and we can go forth. Thanks, y'all.